Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Hey everybody, it's Tom Dutta, like Butta, the Quiet Warrior. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Super excited, west coast of Canada, British Columbia, about 90 degrees here, beautiful day, and we have a beautiful guest in the green room ready to bring on. But before I do that, I want to thank you. The show is exploding because of you watching the show. We have incredible guests. We've done over 300 long-form interviews so far, and we're booked out 6 months with a wait list. So thank you, everybody, for watching. If you can like, and wherever you see the show, put a comment, subscribe to us. That just continues to get the awareness of the guest stories out there. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to hook somebody so that they stay a while? This is long form. So we're on Rumble, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube today. And a lot of people, they get excited when they know what the story will be. So we're trying out something new. We've been doing it for a few months and it's become very popular, we've been told, and it's called The Hook. So stand by, and I'm going to get that ready here. We'll edit all this out for the final production, where I'm going to tell you about our guest, and we'll call it The Hook. So stand by. What it would be like to stay a while and listen to the full story of our guest, Brenda Coffee. Today's guest survived a marriage that ran breaking down, an abduction that felt taken, and emerged as a voice for women who. When I first encountered Brenda Coffee's memoir, Maya Blue, it sounded like fiction. A 21-year-old woman surrenders her voice to become the woman he couldn't live without for a brilliant tech pioneer. They lived in San Antonio's infamous spy house on the hill, a mansion historically known for harboring Nazi spies. He's Philip Ray, the genius who created the first personal computer and microprocessor, and she became his unpaid business collaborator and even coined the terms vape and vaping for the revolutionary smokeless cigarette. But here's where the fairy tale turns nightmare. Philip converts their basement into a cocaine manufacturing lab. The big six tobacco companies begin threatening their lives over the smokeless cigarette patent. And during a cocaine-fueled rage, Philip tries to strangle her in their own home. What happened next has earned her comparisons to Jason Bourne. She's jumped from a second-story bathroom window, hoping an oak tree would break her fall. It did. She survived, thank God. But that was just the beginning. After Philip's death from lung cancer, drowning in debt and desperate to reclaim the pieces of herself she'd surrendered, Brenda embarked on a solo journey to Belize and Guatemala. While visiting the ancient Maya ruins of Tikal, she was kidnapped by brutal Guatemalan military commandos during the height of the country's genocide. Absolutely true. The UN estimates between 200,000 murders, 45,000 disappearances during that chapter of history. Every word of Brenda's story you're going to hear from her is remarkable. Forced into the jungle at gunpoint, she endured sexual assault, torture, and constant threat of death. Her escape reads like an action thriller. A Kirkus reviewer in my research said she demonstrates her considerable powers as a storyteller and a wordsmith, delivering suspense and action that rivals any thriller. But here's what makes this worthy of the Quiet Warrior Show. I asked her, why do you fit the narrative? It's not just a story of survival, it's a masterclass in reclaiming your power when everything tries to silence you. The title Maya Blue comes from ancient pigment created by the Maya, the strongest, most resilient color known to humanity. She'll talk about that, and by the end of her story, you'll understand why. Today, she's founder of 1010 Park Place, a top-rated blog for women over 50. I've checked it out. It's very cool. Her memoir has been nominated for the prestigious Kirkus Prize. She's transformed from a woman who surrendered her voice to one who helps others reclaim theirs. But here's what struck me the most. She wrote, I'm complicit in a drug lab. She doesn't shy away from the complex dynamics of falling in love with an addict or the ways trauma can make us complicit in our own destruction. She takes responsibility for her survival the choices, without victim blaming, providing that sometimes the most radical act is simply telling the truth. As she says, our strength comes from never surrendering our voice. It's the most valuable tool we have, and with it, we can survive almost anything. So from cocaine labs to kidnapping, from big tobacco threats to building a media empire, Brenda Coffee proves that survival isn't just about enduring. It's about transforming trauma into triumph and silence into strength. It's an honor to have you on the show today. Welcome, Brenda Coffee.
Hey there, Tom. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you, and you're over there in Texas. What was it like sitting listening to you for a few minutes?
I would have made a few corrections here and there, like I don't have a media empire. Wish I did. That's Reese Witherspoon. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's just say that.
Yeah, when we have guests come on and we reflect, I've been doing my doctoral studies on the brain, and we're interested in when you hear from the outside information about yourself, what the reaction is. So let's get into it. Hey, Brenda, are you ready to go into Plato's garden and have some conversations?
Absolutely.
All right, let me set this up, everybody. What it would be like to go into Plato's garden with Brenda Coffee. Welcome to Plato's garden. I'm just going to explain this a little bit so that you understand what we're doing, Brenda. Plato's garden, Plato was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece and founded the Platonist school of thought, academia, or the academy. And it was apparently the first institution to higher learning in the Western world. You can see a picture there, Brenda, of Aristotle and Plato, and they used to walk and talk. What we do differently on the Quiet Warrior Show is we're going to have a conversation, not just Q&A, but we're going to weave your dialogue through three areas that influence the context of the work you've done in the world. The first one is macro, how the global world might have influenced everything you've done. Then there's mezzo, what was happening in your sector where you do your work. And micro, my favorite, which is about you, the lady who's taken this journey. And why we do this, Brenda, is we want the audience to do critical thinking. And if we take what we learned through all of that, we might find a deeper meaning in your story. So let me get us going here. I'm going to set the scene and then get you into talking with me. Your memoir, Memoir Blue, has been called Working Girl Meets Taken. Reviewers say your survival instincts, as I mentioned, are like Jason Bourne. Let's start with that 21-year-old woman who surrendered her voice to become the one woman he couldn't live without. What was the price of that fairy tale?
Growing up, maturing, having somebody take my brain out and play basketball with it. But, I wouldn't change a thing. This man Philip Ray was charismatic and brilliant. And I loved him, and for the first 10 years of our 17 years, life was a fairy tale.
Yeah.
We traveled and we had adventures. We were Indiana Jones before there was an Indiana Jones, in search of unexcavated Maya ruins or minerals and crystals in abandoned silver mines, which I'm not sure that was the brightest thing we could do. But yes, it was amazing. I learned so much from him, and I think good and bad, he shaped the woman that I ultimately became.
Yeah, now there's a stack of books in the background there. I wonder if you could hold up the book, because this is the book that I believe you just published it. Can you read the title to everybody?
It is Maya Blue, A Memoir of Survival by Brenda Coffee. And
yeah, what a beautiful color that is. There's a clue there.
And actually, the photograph on the front of the book is one that I took.
Oh, wow.
In that part of the world.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We'll have that up again later. Everyone, I was thrilled with reading the book. Brenda, I read it cover to cover. I also listened to it. I bought the audiobook. and I'm going to surprise you with a review on it later. Listening to your voice actually changed the meaning of the book to me as well in a different way, in a visceral experience. I just want to point out, because my brain goes on journeys when you say things, there's cameras in the background of your studio. There's a photo, and you mentioned the photo on the cover you took. So I just wanted the audience to know you're pretty talented. You're a photographer too, right?
Yes, I've been a photographer since I was a kid, and a journalist, degree in journalism and film and English. So, yes.
That's awesome. Brenda, we're live, so we can edit things later. I'm getting static in when you're speaking, so just check that the plug on that mic there is put in. Maybe just double check that for me.
Nothing's changed since you and I did a pre-check.
Yeah, it's fine. There's a little bit of static, but we'll monitor it as we go. So let's get back into Plato's Garden, and I want to start in the area of micro, the personal story. I'm going to call this the childhood patterns. So your role reversed with your mentally ill mother at 13, became the parent instead of the child. How did this pattern of surrendering your voice to save others shape every relationship after?
Well, when you role reverse with a parent at that age, probably at any age, but certainly under the age of 18, I didn't know any other kids who were taking care of their mothers at the time, and I think in order to take on such a role, I had to pretend that I wasn't afraid of anything or anyone.
Yeah.
And so that is a component that I took with me, probably still to this day. But I think certainly when I met Philip Ray, who I was 21 and he was almost 34, and the darling of Wall Street and brilliant. He'd also been a former spy for the NSA and built secret black boxes for the government, project engineer on the Atlas and the Titan missiles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my bravado, if you will, that's what my literary agent called it, kind of appealed to him in a way. I was very smart, very independent, and enthusiastic about just about anything he wanted to do. Race cars, learn to scuba dive, whatever.
Yeah, amazing. I think I remember in the book, but I don't clearly. My cognition sometimes. How did you two meet? Was there a magic moment or somewhere somebody introduced you?
Well, actually, I let go of a college scholarship because I was living at home with my mother and I just needed to get out. I couldn't do that anymore. And so I got a full-time job and went to school at night at a junior college because I wanted to have a degree. And at some point in one of those jobs, I went to work for Data Point Corporation, which was a public company that Philip Ray founded.
Yeah.
But I had worked there, I think maybe for a year and a half before he and I even had a conversation. But a girlfriend and I, who also worked there, went to a club after work where a lot of the employees went for drinks. And he came and sat down next to me. And for the next 3 hours, we had this great conversation. To the point that we didn't realize that the club had closed and everybody else was gone but us. And so he walked me to my car and he said, "You need to know that I won't date employees." And that was on a Friday night. And I thought about it all weekend. And Monday morning, I went in and gave my resignation. And 2 weeks later, we were living together.
Oh, that's a remarkable story. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, when you write a memoir, you don't always know the backstory. That's fascinating. I just digressing. I don't want to bring up the exact details for privacy, but everybody will know what I'm talking about. That recently was a big story that came through the U.S. media sector, where at a concert where a couple, he was a CEO and she worked in the company. You know what I'm talking about. And I just think about those moments we meet and how they can change our lives and the unintended consequences sometimes. I want to get back into Plato's here, the data point dynasty, I call this. So Philip created the first personal computer and what I've read and what you've said in the microprocessor. You helped run his empire, but you discovered cocaine hidden under your carpet. Take us to that moment when fairy tale became nightmare.
Well, you skipped a big part. He had finished with Data Point Corporation and was going to go do another company. But he wanted a little time in between of not having to manage prima donna engineers and nervous Nelly investors. So we took time out, and that's when we did a lot of our adventures. But he needed a goal. This brilliant man, looking for artifacts. And it's challenging to take a machete and hack your way through a 3-canopy jungle. But for someone like that, it mentally was not challenging. So long story short, he wanted a one-man project. I call it his own personal Rubik's Cube. He taught himself organic synthesis chemistry and decided to see if he could make cocaine from scratch.
Yeah.
And so after about 1.5 years of effort, he did. And once he knew that he had the real thing, he began to try it. I tried it. It terrified me because it gave me heart palpitations and please take me to the emergency room.
Wow.
But he loved it. And so he began to make cocaine downstairs. I think he's really working on the smokeless cigarette. But I'm vacuuming one day, and I'm in the corner of the room, a piece of the carpet pulls up and gets stuck in the vacuum cleaner. And when I bend down to unstick it and put it back down, I find a lump under the carpet, and it is a bag. It's a baggie of cocaine. And I was angry. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I flushed it down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And I confronted him. By that time, he was doing a lot of cocaine, and it kind of all made sense to me. He'd started drinking, and that was to bring himself down because he was so, revved up on the coke. But that wasn't my biggest problem. Actually, I'd like to say it was, but my biggest problem was that we had already filed patents on the smokeless cigarette, the vape.
Yes.
And had started his second public company, which we did together. And the big 6 tobacco companies were threatening our lives because we stood to, if the vape succeeded, we stood to take a large part of their market share away, which would have been billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they were breaking into our home. They were rifling through my underwear drawers. They were going through our whole house, my office upstairs, Philip's lab downstairs. Our vice president of marketing at the time was the former president of R.J. Reynolds International, one of the big 6. Mm-hmm. So we had inside information on exactly what the big 6 thought about us, and that they wanted us to disappear from the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just want to jump in and riff with you on that. Unless you've read the book, and by the way, I just put it back on the screen, an image of it so people can see it again. It is a memoir. And it's true. I missed a big chapter, pieces of the story. That's why I encourage everybody to get the book and read it word for word. There's so much in there. It's funny when you said going through your underwear, or when I was reading or listening to the audiobook and hearing you narrate it, it made me think about just in that moment, because I'm very emotionally wired. That is such the ultimate violation of just knowing somebody went into your things. But just as you're talking now about being threatened and those type of things, most people never would have in their lifetime experienced anything like that. That's why I think it's such an interesting book to read. I want to go into, I call this the basement lab from hell. It's just the theme I've in my mind that came up. And we know about the lab you just talked about, but you had somewhere I read you've written, I'm complicit in the drug lab, or you said that in the audiobook I heard. So how do you rationalize staying? And I don't want to ask you what age you were, but I assume it was quite some time ago. I want to get a sense what your level of thinking was, but it has to be hard. But how do you rationalize staying versus leaving at that point?
Well, I think that's probably a two-prong answer. One is that I desperately loved this man, and I kept thinking that I would get through to him, and he would not only stop using cocaine. By that time, he was addicted, and he was drinking too much alcohol, so he had an alcohol problem. I didn't understand addiction.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, this will maybe ring a bell, that if you're married to an addict of any kind, gambling or drugs and alcohol, you think you can change them. You think you can fix it. You think you can get through to them, and they're just kind of going to go, oh, yes, you're right. So that's one reason that I stayed. I kept thinking tomorrow's going to be the day. I'm going to get through to him. The other reason is that he was so revered and respected, the darling of Wall Street. Mm-hmm. Even today, people who worked for him and investors, our law firm or accountants, friends, they speak of him with glowing terms. And so this was a secret that I kept. Sure. Because I didn't want anyone to know, and I didn't want anyone to think less of him. Plus what he was doing downstairs was illegal. And I had visions of the DEA or the police coming and, headlines in the Wall Street Journal, inventor of microprocessor and first personal computer and wife arrested for making cocaine. Yeah. So there were multiple reasons why I stayed. Sure. And I think a lot of, particularly women, do that. Where in my case, I didn't have my own money. So if I would have left, I didn't have money to leave. Sure. Even the car I was driving was not in my name.
Roughly how old were you again back in that
By chapter? Then I was in my early 30s.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So everybody, we're with the author of Maya Blue here, Brenda Coffee. Brenda, I just want to riff on that because you're making me think about things personally in my life. And that's the power of your story, is when somebody reads your book, it's going to unlock something in them. And recently, in some of the research I did for my doctorate, there's a thought in the brain that the more I learn about you, I learn about myself. And so you're teaching me here and the audience that my father was a addict. He was addicted to alcohol. When he passed away in 2018, he was actually 23 years in AA. But he and my mom were together 32 years, and then they divorced. So my dad left home when I was 12 years old. My mother never. The things I saw, if I published it in my memoir, it would be really tough to read. No child should ever see that. And so I've gone through PTSD, therapy, just things to put away some of that stuff. My dad lost everything by almost drinking and driving and killing a woman and child, lost his job, lost his kids.
Wow.
And we would ask my mother later in life, and I was angry at her, and I love my mom, but I told her this, why did you stay? And I never understood. So your story helps me understand, but I understand now as a mature adult. Everybody went, in my view, when there's decisions to be made, the consequences are more complicated. For example, my mom had 3 children, so she always worried about us and our development. What's interesting, Brenda, I want to finish on this and honor what you told me. I did some neuroscience research and found that a child's brain, one of the worst traumatic things for a child is abandonment by a father, because you lose that part of your nurturing and your development. So my mom knew something, even though she wasn't a scholar, and the pain she went through to stay actually benefited in some way the boys. And I was 12, but at least I had my dad for a period of time. So listening to what you said, I think about that. There's Philip and his reputation and the company and the spinoffs and all these things. Yeah, you can't just say, I'm going and I'm calling the police. And yet most of us will react and say, why didn't she leave? Come on. But when we critically think about it, what you taught us helps us think deeply. So thank you. I'm going to call this the window jump. Philip tried to strangle you. This was hard for me to even think about. I know it may be painful to go through it again. He was in a cocaine rage, I understand. He jumped from a second-story bathroom window to escape. Take us through that split-second survival choice. Like, just take us. What in that moment you're jumping from a window? It seems surreal. Could have hurt yourself, but tell us about that.
It just was instinctual.
Yeah.
He was on the other side of the bathroom door, and he had fired a gun. I later found the bullet in the floor right outside the door.
Wow.
But it would have just been a matter of seconds before he either fired through the door and hit me, or he opened the door. And I had been restoring the house by myself, and that bathroom door used to have a lock on it, the doorknob. Yeah. But I bought a new doorknob, and it didn't have a lock. And I knew it would just be a matter of time before he remembered. I think he just assumed that the door was locked.
Yeah.
So, there was my only other exit was a window, and there was a tree about 2 feet away. And I just, after that first bullet went into the floor, it was instinctual. It wasn't a reasoning process that I went through. I just flew up, I shoved open the window and I leaped.
Yeah.
And
good for you for taking control of your life that way. Yeah, I'm going to call you Brenda JB Coffee, Brenda Jason Borden Coffee. But viscerally that, they say when you read something and there's emotion attached, your brain will remember it. It's part of the hero's journey narrative. And I remember that from the book. It's like, it's one of the things that stands out. It's like, wow. I guess they say the brain is created to look for danger first and safety. So you'd split second react, and you did something that saved you there. Let's get into the next part, which I call mezzo, which is really the influences of your work in the sector where you did your trade, all the things you did. I was curious, creating the vaping revolution. I walk through my neighborhood and there's stores, and today it's just part of life. You see people walking down the street. My brother smoked heavily, my older brother, but he has one of those. And so you coined the terms vape and vaping for the first smokeless cigarette. How did innovation become a death threat for big tobacco? You probably have an insight on that. I was just curious.
Oh, yes. Nicotine and smoking was my business for 20 years. So I ultimately did a hostile takeover of this company, Advanced Tobacco Products. But at the time that Philip developed the smokeless cigarette, it truly was smokeless. It wasn't like the vapes of today, that are e-cigs that have a battery or they emit smoke. There was no smoke at all. This looked exactly like a cigarette, the same weight, and you inhaled. Nicotine vaporizes all by itself. So it didn't need a heating element or anything like that. And this was at a time in the late 70s, early 80s when cigarettes were being banned all over the world. And there were more and more places where you could not smoke. It was, illegal to smoke in a restaurant or in a public place. And of course, people who were smokers were up in arms saying, you're taking away our rights. You can't do that. Then there were non-smokers that were saying, right on, because we don't want to breathe your secondhand smoke, because that's dangerous as well. So Philip's smokeless cigarette was absolutely brilliant because it solved all of the problems. There was no particulate matter that came out of the end of the cigarette or a smoker's mouth when you exhale. So you could use it anywhere. And it didn't meet the legal definition of a cigarette, which meant the government could not tax it. And the feds were not happy with us either. And they were in bed together with, this is really upsetting if people can grasp this concept. Our government, they can. Our government doesn't always have our best interest at heart. And so here they are in bed with tobacco companies trying to find a way to stop us. Because the government is their second largest revenue source is the tax on cigarettes and alcohol. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. But since they couldn't tax us, our product, then there was billions of dollars that they were going to lose out on. Plus, if Favor smokeless cigarette, I named it Favor as in do yourself a favor, do everybody else around you a favor. And so if Favor became a hit, then the big six tobacco companies were going to lose out on revenue as well. So it was just an interesting time to be living in. And I realized that after this happened, 6 years later, there was somebody else who the big six tobacco companies threatened their life as well. And that's Dr. Jeffrey Wigand, who people may remember his name as he was the whistleblower on the tobacco industry. He was VP of product development for Brown and Williamson Tobacco. And they threatened his life and the life of his kids. That was made into a film, an Academy Award nominated film in the 90s, starring Russell Crowe and Al Pacino. It was called The Insider. And
I think I've seen it.
Dr. Wigand has written a blurb for my book, and he and I understand each other because we've had the same people threaten our lives. But he suggested that we go on a speaking tour together because nothing's really changed.
Incredible. And then now we have a different no pun wave of smoke. Certainly in my nation, the legalization of marijuana, and the thing that's different about that is the pungent smell of it. It's the worst thing. So where no matter when you are walking, smell it, I can't get past it. At least I was able to deal with cigarette smoke. I love watching older movies, by the way, where they still use the cigarettes are still in the scene. It just takes you back. And is there something about it that's just sexy, and it just gives you that feeling, right?
Well, and I think that's why that's very perceptive of you, Tom. I think that's why people start smoking to begin with, as they've seen it in the movies with all these beautiful ladies and handsome men, and it looks very sophisticated. And
that's right.
But as it turns out, nicotine is more physically addicting than heroin.
That's very interesting.
So it's harder to stop smoking than it is to stop using heroin.
That's a remarkable point you just made. Everybody, teaching moment from Brenda. So I got to research and look behind things. The cigars are interesting. I don't want to take this into smoking, but my dad smoked cigars only when he drank, but I collected them. I traveled the world through my business. I was a chief executive for most of my career before I started independent work. And I'd collect these fine cigars, but whenever there was a special moment in life, like my daughter was born or one of my sons graduated, I would sit on my own and smoke a good cigar. Obviously, so there's just something about that thing, right? And I think we learned from our parents, and my dad smoked a cigar. Let's get into the mezzo, another part of this. I call this the business behind the madness. So you're quite resilient, because everything we know, when when people read your book, they'll get the sense how serious things were in your life, difficult. But you were dealing with business. So you were managing consultant for a public company. Correct me if I am wrong, because it's just my research. You later sold to Big Pharma, yes. How did you navigate boardrooms and those business things while surviving domestic chaos? Because we know a lot of leaders, we don't hear about it, but there are things behind the scenes going on, and they still have to function. So what's your resilience, and how did you do that?
Well, I did a hostile takeover of Advanced Tobacco Products after Philip died.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So my experience, formal, shall we say, experience on the board, started then, and no one liked me because I had done that, and I had humiliated the two co-CEOs. Like, why does a company need co-CEOs? Let's start there. But there was a group of shareholders that I had gotten wind of. They had called me, actually, and I think they had a problem with the co-CEOs and the direction of the company. This was after Philip died. And they basically told me, unless that I could give them some good news about the future of the company, that there was a shareholder meeting the following week, and they were going to do a hostile takeover. And so they kind of backed me into a corner, and I didn't really have a choice. But when I did that, the co-CEOs had been long-term friends of mine. They no longer liked me. Yeah. I did not want to be CEO. I brought someone in. They were very awkward moments. We had lots of board meetings. What are we going to do with the company? Because at that point, the federal government had sent the company a letter, and asked us to voluntarily withdraw favor from the marketplace, or they were going to slap us with an injunction and shut us down. And, that kind of publicity is not good for a public company or the value of the stock. And so we voluntarily withdrew our product from the marketplace. We had no choice. But then once I came on board, we started looking at alternatives. Now we have patents on this product. What value can we bring from the patents, as well as a publicly held company is a valuable entity, the shell in and of itself. So long story short, we sold the patents to Pharmacia-Leo, and they were the manufacturers of the Nicorette, Nicotrol, at the time, patch and the chewing gum. So they took Philip's patent and redeveloped it, and it became the Nicorette, Nicotrol inhaler. It didn't look like a cigarette at all anymore. It looked more like a medical device. And then, so they were paying the company royalties, and the company would get taxed on the royalties, and then we would distribute the royalties to the shareholder, and because that was capital gains, they would get taxed. So that's double taxation on shareholders, which didn't make any sense. Excuse me. So we wound up selling the future royalties and the shell of the company to IVAX Pharmaceutical, and they're the ones that did Viagra.
I see. I'll let you just catch your breath there, have your water. I just wanted to dig deeper on that thought. We caught a thread of your mom. I'll just give you a moment.
It's allergies, I think.
No problem. You tell me when you're ready to proceed. The other thing is we're doing this live, but we edit out things like that. So we have some people on watching. So I want to say thanks, by the way, to everybody who's staying on to hear this great story unfold. I'm going to also take advantage of this part because I'm going to edit it, Brenda. Let's just do a quick adjustment on something. I'm going to try it. Let's go back to the other mic you had. And even if you have to have my voice come out of your speakers, can that be a quick unplug? We're still getting that static, and it is coming through your mic somehow. Everybody, while Brenda's doing that, we're going to be getting into the book reveal. We're going to be showing you a reveal on a review for her book. And why we recommend that you grab that book. It's just being published. For a lot of authors, people don't know this. I'm a published author, but authors' work's generally not known until we find readers who read it and tell people about it. So I'm going to ask you to get the book and post a review. Are you ready to keep going there, Brenda? Mm-hmm. Okay. So perfect. All right. So testing 1 2 testing 1 2.
Hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you fine. It's a balancing act between feedback through your speakers and the crackle was there. So, and by the way, this is fun because I want to tell the audience, and this is why I do live stream. We've had people with dogs who come in and start barking and birds that fly through the screen. And so when we're doing live streaming, this is like peeking in the studio of a movie or something being taped. You see everything. So this is normal. And we work through some of those issues. So what I'm going to do is probably what I'll do is when I'm not talking, obviously we're not getting the feedback. So I will probably just mute my mic out in between. But let's get back into, I wanted to drill down just on that one thing you said about, I asked you about navigating things that were going on in your personal life, the domestic chaos, while performing in business. And we learned through the Plato's exploration that your mom dealt with mental illness. A lot of executives, this is my experience because I have been a CEO, but I have dealt with depression, anxiety. A lot of high-level leaders, and in the executive coaching that I've done, they cover it up. They don't talk about it. They will feel they have to be tough and strong. But behind the scenes, I'm always interested. What did you do during that journey to maintain mental health outside of work? How did you keep yourself mentally strong and healthy with your mindset and your physical body?
Well, to answer that, then we need to go back to my being taken at gunpoint. Skipped that. And mind you that for those that don't know, Maya Blue is a memoir, but it's a memoir that reads like a thriller. So I was taken at gunpoint in Guatemala by the Guatemalan army. And just to deal with that when I got home, not to mention dealing with having lived with a drug addict. I got a lot of therapy and I listened to guided imagery. I saw a doctor who was also a hypnotherapist, and he made every week custom tapes for me to listen to. So I got very good at going within and getting silent and blocking out everything else that wasn't needed, whether it was PTSD or the people across from me in the boardroom.
I see.
I'm very good at shutting all of that out.
Well, thank you for being real and authentic and sharing that. I think your voice speaks for tons of people who don't openly talk about it, and it's really, really important to hear. So thank you. I'm going to go into the last part of Plato's, which is the macro. So this is the global, what I call global influences on your work. Just let me check that sound again. I'm hearing just me. All right. Goodness. Testing. Are you able to turn your sound down so I'm a little bit lower? I wish we could have magic where I could take over your computer and just manage it for you. Still hearing it. Echo. It's an echo. Can you hear me through your speakers? Just give me a sense. Is it moderate? Is it medium? Is it too low, loud? How do I come through for you?
Perfect.
Yeah. So is it at, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, would your sound be at a 5 or a 3 or a 6, do you think?
It's a 3.
It's a 3? Yeah. That tells me you got a really good mic, because these mics that you have one, I have one, they're very powerful at picking up sound. So that's coming through. So let's do a one adjustment, Brendan. This will be the last one. Switch back to the other mic. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it with the earbuds.
Do you want me to use the earbuds?
Yeah, because mic or not, the mics are so good that you have, they're picking up my voice through your speakers. And I'll just
it's very strange, because I've done a lot of podcasts and this is the only one I've had trouble with. So
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
it's better. Just on that, we're not like most podcasts. We have $10,000 in equipment in the studio, professional studio. So what happens is the Rodecaster soundboard picks up everything, and so now it's perfect. So whatever you've done for the adjustment, I want to congratulate you for doing that, because it's fixed it.
I've not done a thing except plug in, plug out.
Well, sometimes that's as little as it is just a plug in and plug out can adjust something that clicks. So now it seems to be perfect. So let's keep rolling. And thank you for doing that. We'll edit that out. The global influence of the Guatemala kidnapping. Boy, everybody, in the book, it's remarkable when you read this. You got to get that. Military commandos forced you into the jungle at gunpoint. I'm so sorry for your experience there. Can't even imagine. Just during one of history's most brutal genocides. What did you learn about human evil and human resilience during those times?
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. This morning I was watching, before I came on with you, the killer in Idaho who murdered the 4 college students. His victims' parents were giving their statements to him. And I realized that I knew this even when I was writing the book. There are people that have gone through things that are far worse than I have. But that guy is evil. I mean, their evil walks among us. Mm-hmm. And I understand why the people of Central America and Mexico, I'm very familiar with Mexico, Guatemala, I understand why they're fleeing their country, particularly at that point in time. According to the United Nations, when I was taken, I don't call it kidnapping because, I mean, they weren't going to ransom me for money.
Yeah,
they were going to rape me until there was nothing left of me. But at that point in time, that group, it was the Guatemalan army, had killed something like 200,000 people, and 45,000 had gone missing. They call them los desaparecidos, the disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I think during that period there were 3,000 Americans that went missing. So I would have been one of them.
Yeah, we won't get into the detail, but in the book it details some very hard details about the assault part of it, and there's a bit of
exactly how I got away.
Yeah, and I think I tried to touch on that in the hook opening, something about grabbing testicles and other parts of these things. I go back to the remarkable story and why we do Plato's and connect to all different areas, try to figure all this out, that there's a pattern here. Jason Bourne jumping out of a window instinctively, this Guatemala thing, and then being forced into what happened to you and getting out of that. You're Superwoman, but I know from neuroscience and studying the brain that we're shaped certain ways, and sometimes it comes from experiences back in life where we had this life or death moment, and we had to make a decision, and we rewired neuronal pathways to know how to escape. Or maybe one of our parents, we saw them going through certain things, and we just were shaped that way. Again, I know I'm not asking for a black and white answer, but these instincts you have are remarkable. And what do you think you were shaped more by your mother or your father, or do you think that that's just something that in these moments, you just found that superhuman strength? Because it is very rare.
I think it's a little more in depth than that, Tom. I've been surviving something since the day I was born, 6 weeks premature, and an Rh negative baby who needed a complete blood transfusion in the first few hours of my life.
Yeah.
And that was a time when they didn't really know how to do that procedure, and most babies died. But my father raised me like I was a boarding student at a military academy. He was very strict. And before he died, he told me that the reason that he had done that he loved my mother dearly, but he didn't want me to grow up and be like mother. And she, for some reason, liked being the victim. And actually, that was probably the nicest thing he ever said to me, because I understood why he was so harsh.
Yeah.
But that served me well, because I could think on my feet. And then Philip Ray also, I absorbed a lot of Philip's rules of thumb. Like he would say, always plan for worst case. Regardless of what you're doing.
Sure.
You walk into a room wherever you are, plan for worst case, anything less than that, and you're prepared for it. So I had all of his rules of thumb for all of those years that we were together that was ingrained in me.
Oh, I think that's really awesome. So we're learning more. I mean, that's new stuff. Might have been in the book a bit, but the part about premature baby and then the blood transfusion is like a survivor. I want to share with you that triggered in me in my doctoral work I'm doing for my thesis, that I had to explore my own identity. So I was born premature on a military base in the UK. My dad was in the British forces as the commanding officer. So raised command and control by my father, and an alcoholic father, a very violent type of person. So that's what shaped me. But my mom also told me, I can't remember when, that when and we were in Singapore on the way here, we traveled, I got malaria as a kid. We had to sleep with mosquito nets. And she said my temperature was so high, they didn't think I'd survive. So there was then this drug they used, but back then they didn't really know how to treat it. And then I look at my childhood and how I came through that, and I look at the brain injury I had. And I have those deep thoughts that I'm learning from you about your resilience story, that there's something about these moments, because we're born innocent and golden. That's what I think. We don't have this knowledge in us, and this knowledge comes into us. We embody it, and then we take it and we turn it into something to make the world better. You're a beautiful person that way, because all these things you're telling us, most people don't reveal it. That's why we're doing this, has shaped you into somebody who is incredibly resilient. And maybe, just maybe, somebody's going to hear this and go, I am so stuck because of this. I'm feeling sorry for myself. This happened to me. But if she did it, I can do it. So congratulations for the memoir. Let's move on to the last segment here. I want to share something on the screen here, because you become a blogger, and I'd call it a bit of a blog empire. So I want you just to tell us what we're seeing here. I'm just going to just bear with me here. I'm putting it up on the screen. So sharing a screen, and there it is. I only knew about this because of what I've learned from you. What are we looking at there?
That's part of the homepage of 1010 Park Place, which is my blog for women over 50. And
I'm just going to scroll it a bit, and so people can get a sense how really cool it is. Lots of images. The intent to show it is not to actually read it. But what I understand is it's been voted #1 for women over 50 blog, the #1 blog for women over 50. So what do you tell women who've lost their voice like you once did? What kind of messages are through this work in the blog that you have?
As I was writing Maya Blue, it occurred to me why I write about survival so much. I write about survivorship. Before 1010 Park Place, I had the top breast cancer blog. And
Wow.
I started that because I couldn't, when did I do that? 2007, I think, because I couldn't find a lot of the information that I wanted to know, or doctors didn't want to talk about, why chemotherapy made sex painful. So I became the girlfriend that talked about everything. But it's been a great walk. It's been very healing for me. I have the most wonderful readers in the world, and they become friends with them.
Give them a round of applause virtually there.
They become friends with one another in the comments section, which is really fun to see.
That's great.
It's just 1010 Park Place and my breast cancer website has, which I no longer have, has changed my life, and it's brought women into my life. Before that, I was mainly in a male-focused world, and so it's been a great blessing. It's just
I can see that in everybody when you're hearing someone on a show like this and you see them, their body language. We read you and the inflection in your face, everything changed, or you can go back and watch it. You can feel that in your voice, how you've changed, and the pride. I want to congratulate you for the blog. What I thought was lovely about it too, I read some of it, the perspectives, but the pictures, and I know being a photographer, there must be some things in there that are your work, but I found it very powerful. I'm a visual learner to see the pictures, not just a whole bunch of text. So everybody check it out. We'll put it in the show notes for you to go take a look at. So we're on the home stretch here, and I wanted to ask you to hold up your book again there, Brenda, and just reiterate the title to us.
Well, and there's something that I think people ought to know about where the title Maya Blue comes from.
Please.
Since we're talking about strength and resilience, Maya Blue is a real color. And art historians say that it's the oldest, strongest, most resilient pigment known to man. It was created by the Maya. And I got to see it firsthand in the jungle when I was being held on an unexcavated Maya ruin. At the time, I didn't think anything about it, other than it was a really vivid blue. But it has survived that color where all of the other colors have faded on these ruins.
I see.
Maya Blue has not faded in 2,000 years. And so I've used it as the title, as a metaphor, not just for my strength and resilience, but for yours, Tom, and for everyone else who's going through something, and I want people to know that you're stronger than you think you are. And never give up your voice, never give away your voice, because that is your biggest power that you have. Yeah. And with your voice, you can survive just about anything.
What a great message. It's throughout the book. It's on the blog. It's in everything that Brenda does. This thing about resilience, it's interesting because it's triggering me, the word Maya. My wife is Anna. She was born in Rome, Italy, came to Canada when she was about the same age I was, about 5 or 6. We've been married 30 years coming up. It's our second marriages, so she's gone through a journey herself. But she grew up in the banking industry where I met her. I was an executive, and she was in a male-dominated world. So interesting, because the way you talk about that experience, some of the things that I know she experienced, navigating that, she has this real need. She does art now, and she wants to write a book or do some blogging about resilience for women. And she painted this really cool picture. I'm giving her a free plug here because I love her so much. She painted this picture called The Tribe of Five, and she's got 5 women. One woman's colored with a hijab, and there's different. And she tells me stories all the time about women she meets and how they had their rights taken away from them growing up as young women, dominance. And even her, when she was in the bank, I can't say it publicly, some of the things that men, how they treated her, and I saw it, were just disgusting. I think the world's getting better, but I'm going to make a statement that I want you to hear, that from my learnings and just working with women, so neurologically, it's been proven women are smarter than men. Women actually have a better ability to do transformational leadership. That means get to the heart of people using a combination of male and feminine energy and transform people. But
Interesting.
and this thing about men, they don't. So I can send you an article, but the research on that is very clear. My mom always used to say you should have been a girl because I'm part feminine, but I know that feminine energy is very powerful. So I'll just finish on this. My belief is, and I say this to honor you, that I've been in boardrooms. I've been the CEO. I've seen women in skirts and blouses, beautiful hair, being who they are when they walk in a boardroom, knowing the strength of their own being, not trying to put on a mask and be men and be the old boys. And that is so much more powerful. And some of those men out there still struggle with it. But I think it's changing because I see that. So
Slowly.
Slow it is, but with what you're doing, it does. Let's get into the last couple things, and I want to honor you with two things. This is called The Unwritten Chapter. What's next? I've been having fun with this segment, and so I will just pick something here. Beyond the memoir, after exposing your deepest traumas to the world, Brenda, what frontier still calls to you?
Well, Hollywood is called about Maya Blue, about making it into a film. A lot of people have called, and that's been really exciting. Maria Shriver named it as one of her best summer reads. So I'm in the midst of discussions, and what calls to me is being a screenwriter, is turning Maya Blue into a film or a Netflix series.
That's awesome. You heard it here, everyone. The Unwritten Chapter. It is a unique. I know somebody who told me that they wanted to take their book and turn it into a screenplay. I had no idea how to write screenplay. It's such a different skill. But what an exciting honor for you to even have that call. So congratulations. Hopefully I'll have you back in the future talking about the release of a new film. I'm thinking about that now too. And I was thinking that knowing you now and what I know about you and how resilient and humble you are, maybe you had an ego at one point in life and that was evident. You don't, it's not in my mind, what you said, I interpret it's not the call from Hollywood. Like some people would brag and they put it out there. Hey, Hollywood. To me, it's another chance to get your story broader through another channel. It's you continuing to get that beautiful story of the world, right?
Thank you.
That's what it is. It's not, because sometimes I get a knock for, well, you're an author, you published. I said, it doesn't matter to me if everybody loves my book or not, but if one person reads and it shifts them, then I feel like I've done my work in the world. So congratulations. We're going to honor you now with a book review. So just let me put it on the screen. Just going to share the screen here. My vision is just a little bit latent in getting all that up there. So can you see on the screen something? It says Amazon book review.
I can.
Oh, hold on a sec. It's just saying refresh screen. So let me just do that. Just hold on. Refresh. There it is, and play. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's a tool. I'm not a seller for Amazon, or in Microsoft. There's a tool, Brenda, called Amazon Sway, and it comes with Microsoft's computer software. And you can put a Word document into it, and it turns it into a graphical illustration like this. I just thought I'd mention that because there might be some people out there who are creative. So I'm going to read it off of paper because that's way too small, but it would put it up there just for the sake of the broadcast. So I want you to sit back and just enjoy. I've written, Amazon's accepted it. It's been approved. It's on amazon.ca. So it's an international review and for your new book. So here we go.
Thank you.
It's by the way, I've posted it on Audible, which is for the audiobook, as well as Amazon. So it's on both. Reviewer Tom Dutta, that's me, Amazon book review. I've given it 5 out of 5 stars. Brenda Coffee's Maya Blue, A Memoir of Survival, is an extraordinary testament to the indestructible nature of the human spirit and one woman's journey from silenced victim to empowered voice. Coffee doesn't just survive unthinkable trauma. She transformed it into wisdom that could save lives. Her memoir spans 3 distinct phases: the complicit wife who enabled genius and madness, the jungle survivor who literally fought off rape by crushing a soldier's testicles. And by the way, Amazon actually approved that, so it's up there. And the emerging phoenix who reclaimed her power through hostile corporate takeovers and conscious relationship choices. What makes this book to me remarkable isn't just the thriller-like plot, though it reads like Working Girl meets Taken, but Coffee's unflinching honesty about her own complicity. She doesn't portray herself as a pure victim, but as a complex woman who made survival choices, some empowering, some degrading. This nuanced or detailed self-examination elevates the memoir beyond, to me, being sensational into genuine psychological insight. The historical significance adds weight to personal trauma. I'm just going to scroll this down here so we can make sure the audience sees the second part of it. Just hold on. I'm still, we'll edit that out. The historical significance adds weight to personal trauma. Philip Ray didn't just create a computer, he invented the personal computer and microprocessor that launched our digital age. Coffee didn't just help with a smoking alternative, she literally coined vape and vaping. Her Guatemalan kidnapping occurred during a genocide. These are random tragedies, but pivotal moments that shaped technology, landscape, and history. Coffee's writing demonstrates remarkable restraint. She could have sensationalized the cocaine lab, the Nazi spy house, or the brutal attempted rape. Instead, she focuses on the psychological journey from surrendered voice to reclaimed power. The Maya blue metaphor, I love that. The strongest, most resilient pigment known to humanity perfectly encapsulates both her story and her spirit. This memoir will resonate with anyone who has loved an addict, survived domestic violence, or wondered whether they're stronger than they know. Coffee proves that survival isn't just enduring. It's transforming trauma into triumph and silence into unbreakable strength. This is essential reading for anyone ready to stop surrendering their voice and start reclaiming their power. Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, that's lovely. That's really something.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And so I'll send you this as my keepsake for you, my handwriting, and it's up there now. So I'll send you the link from Amazon.
So that will be on Amazon?
Amazon.ca. And Amazon, each region, like Europe, Canada, US, Australia, they all have their own URLs. But what I'll do is I'll send you the actual link to it so you can see it. And a little known trick for authors, I don't know if you've been told this, but I figured it out. Amazon does an interesting thing where sometimes reviews just happen to drop off. Not sure why. Sometimes their algorithms will see another review and they don't like certain things, and then they clean reviews. So what, just a suggestion, but what I do is for every review, I've got 200 on my first book. I go on Amazon, I copy it, like copy with my right click, my mouse, and then I'll paste it in a Word document and I keep it. So I actually have and you can actually repurpose it and put it on your blog or whatever, as long as you just say it was from Amazon. So that's just it's
a great idea. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, and I'm not disparaging Amazon. Unfortunately, there's things like trolls out there who post fake reviews. And then one of the things Amazon does is they don't like reviews being posted. This is good for teaching the audience who are going to do reviews for this book. They don't like familiarity. So if they find out that, hey, you gave me a free book and you knew me, sometimes people just do things that it changes the integrity of the actual review. And Amazon's really a bookseller, right? They're a marketplace. But congratulations on your 5-star international review. And finally, we're going to honor you with an award here. So I'm just going to put my camera up there. This is my studio cam. You can see there. This is where I spilled my tea this morning that I told you about. That made me totally stressed out. It's all a bit sticky now. All right. Have you heard of challenge coins before?
No.
Okay, good. Next time I ask you that, you'll say, yeah, Tom Dutta told me. Challenge coins were created, you'll get it in a little sleeve like this. They were created in World War I, and they were, let me just read it to you so the audience can learn. So the history of the challenge coin surfaced during World War I era. The practice of carrying a coin designed specifically for a unit was popular with the Army Special Forces, carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged to prove affiliation with that unit resulted in a number of consequences for those who could not produce a coin. This still carries on today. The most popular fund they have is if you didn't bring your coin, the other person bought you a round of drinks. And I've been told by officers that but Brenda, these coins are actually collected. They have them in first responders. That my dad was in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, for 30 years. They have them there. The teachers union, everywhere where there's community. So I wanted something when I started the show to commemorate that only the 1% of people in the world come through the show. I vet hard people who have done something unique and changed the world. It's hand painted and crafted. They're pretty hefty. That's the show logo. But on the back is, I'm biased, but it's my favorite part, the hero's journey narrative by Joseph Campbell, where one takes a journey after all their pain, learns, comes back as a guide, teaches. That's etched on the back of the coin.
Wow.
And they did a good job. So congratulations. You're now part of the Quiet Warrior.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you're part of the global community. And I'll be sending this out to you. I'll get your address. And I just ask you to do me a small favor if you can and take a photo somewhere meaningful with it. And it could be your iPhone, and email it to me. I've got I've got the photos in an album. I might just put it together for my enjoyment one day. So let's get back to wrapping up. As I wrap up the show here with Brenda Coffee, everybody, I'm going to make a call to action to get her book, read it, post a review. But Brenda, tell us where to get a hold of your work. And finally, is there anything you haven't said today that you want to say to leave us with?
Well, you can buy the book anywhere you buy books. Amazon, Simon & Schuster, the audiobook, either Audible, Apple, anything like that. And I'm just, this is a story that I never thought I would tell. So I'm kind of as shocked as some of my friends are. But I really hope that the concept of Maya Blue and being able to survive things that you don't think you can do, I hope people embrace that and really take it to heart and understand that that is true. That is absolutely true. And I'm proof.
You're proof.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. What a wonderful message to leave with. So everybody, live life with passion. Live life with purpose, like you heard from Brenda, but live the life that you deserve and desire. And we'll see you all again on the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
Okay, stand by. We're going to take you off screen. We still have people. It shows me people are on watching, so that's pretty cool. I'm just going to end the stream. So